everybody. My name is Lucid Lupus. Thank you for tuning into this video. Today's video is going to be the top 3 scariest Stalker stories. Also, tomorrow my Chills parody is coming out.
Number 15.
So stay tuned for that. But with that being said, I hope you enjoy this video, and as always, the dark is simply the answer. Around the time I was either in 8th or 10th grade, I was extremely involved in this small building server. The average age was probably 15 or 17, and I joined a group of builders and Skyped with them every weekend for hours. We all became close fast, and trusted each other enough that we followed each other on Instagram. I became particularly close with one of the builders in my friend group named Peter. Peter was in the same grade as me, and we ended up texting quite a lot. I heard rumors that Peter might have a crush on me. He denied them, which I found laughable cause it was the internet and brushed it off. Everything was fine for a while until something began to feel off when I talked to him. I was starting to constantly catch him telling small lies. This bothered me, so I figured it was time to distance myself from Peter, and I stopped talking to him. Cut to a few months later of no contact, and Peter out of the blue texted me that he's going to be possibly transferring to my high school so he can get in-state tuition for college. Peter's plan is to somehow live completely alone and support himself while he's in high school. My stomach drops when I read the text, and I know this feels very, very off. I try to be calm, and I tell him that his plan is crazy. I tell him that it's oddly convenient that he chose my random suburb. Peter insists that his plan will work, and it's just a coincidence that he's going to my high school. I'm trying to call Peter's bluff, and hope he is just screwing with me because I cut him off. Peter says he bought the plane tickets already, and is going to stay in my town, and to visit some high school in the area. Fear then washes over me, and I realize Peter definitely has some very unhealthy attachment to me. Peter was not bluffing. My horror, he posts a picture on Snapchat at the airport. Peter asks to meet up while he's there, and I of course decline. Later, I see in his Snapchat story that he is taking a tour of my high school. Peter's taking lots of videos and pictures, probably hoping that I can see him. Luckily, I am stuck at home with pneumonia. I spend the next few days on edge, and afraid he's going to ring my doorbell at any moment. Luckily, he was not smart enough to find where I live, and he flies home but does not follow his plan. Baffling part was, none of my old group on the Minecraft server thought he was doing anything creepy. I felt like I was going crazy for thinking this was weird. I thought my rejection for this meetup and continued no contact would be the end of it. But about 2 years later, and I just committed to my dream college, I still followed Peter on social media because I wanted some warning if he came to my area. Once again, Peter did. I see him posing in front of the library at my college with the caption saying, "Transferring here is definitely the move." Cut to a few months later, Peter finds out I had a boyfriend and directly contacts me for the first time in 2 years. Starts asking strange questions like, "Will he protect you?" I shouldn't have answered, but for some odd reason, I did. I finally blocked him and stopped following him on social media out of fear. He has not tried to contact me since though. Definitely made some mistakes because I was young and scared, and had others telling me it was not a big deal. So Peter, if you're reading this, Let's not meet. A little bit of context. I'm a 20-year-old female, and I started an OnlyFans account over the summer to support myself through school, and things were great until I posted my Amazon wishlist. Amazon doesn't release your address to people who gift you items, but third-party sellers can, and that's where it went wrong. By the way, I'm not trying to promote it here by any means. This is a very frightening story, and I felt like it should be shared. In late July, I got a puppy. One night around 2 a.m., I took him outside to go to the bathroom. While he was doing his business, I noticed a car parked outside my family home. I saw a figure in the car and could tell they were looking at me, but I couldn't make out their face because it was pitch black outside. Feeling a bit uneasy, I picked up my puppy to take him back inside, and when I started to move, the car parked in my driveway. I sprinted back inside and locked the door, but they never approached my house. The next morning, I went to check the mail. There was an envelope addressed to my OF name with $20 in it, but no note. I was currently still at home with my parents who had no idea about my OnlyFans account, so I didn't mention it to them. A week later, I moved back to my college town to get ready to start school. At this time, I had stopped posting for the time being until I could figure out how they got my address. I've watched enough crime shows to know there's a possibility I could be in danger. I live in a duplex with a gated parking lot, for reference. One morning, I was planning on vlogging my trip to Target because I was planning on starting a YouTube channel in the near future, since OF felt unsafe. When I got to my car, it had been ransacked and my vlogging camera was missing. I know, it's my fault for leaving it in my car, but I was using it the night before, and since I live in a gated area, I didn't think I would be unsafe. It wasn't in plain sight either. I had hidden it in my glove box. I used that camera to film my content, and the SD card that was in there had all my unreleased photos and videos. I know, they stole it just for the SD card. But anyways, this is where the story gets weird. There are cameras outside in the parking lot, so we're able to watch this person break into my car and find the camera. But yet, they didn't touch any of the 7 cars in the parking lot. They knew this car was mine, which suggests they had been watching me for a bit. After they got my camera, they walked around the duplex until stopping near my window. My bedroom faces an outside street, and my blinds are broken, so it's very easy to see in. I have a curtain, but it doesn't cover my window all the way. This person watched me sleep for an hour or so. I have no idea why they didn't try to break in, but thank God they didn't. This person then sold the camera to a pawn shop, and since I knew the serial number, the police were able to find it. However, my SD card was still missing. I believe the police are still trying to track them down, but I have broken my lease and moved to a new place, so hopefully that will keep me safe. So that being said, to the guy who terrorized me at my home and apartment and stole my camera, promise me one thing: let's not ever meet. When I was about 16 years old, my family was living in a suburban area outside of LA. It was a nice neighborhood. Kids rode their bikes in a group, parents waved to each other, and helped keep an eye on people's houses. You could join a barbecue if you walked by at the right time. Well, my dad was working nights at a hospital in the city, and that left myself, my mom, my sister, and my brother home at night from 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 the next day. One night, we are cooking, listening to music, and just all around having a good night, and everyone's in bed by 9. I am woken up to the sound of our front door being rattled, and my mother was calling for my dad like he was home. Our house was laid out like this. There was a front door and a small entryway, and the right side wall facing the door from outside was my brother's room. Myself and my sister were on the other side of him, and the doorway led into our dining room. My mom's house was off from the living room towards the back of the house, so they typically turned on lights to come by our rooms. It wasn't all that uncommon for my dad to get let off for a shift a few hours early and ended up home before 7. My front door had frosted glass, and in the middle it was clear enough we could see whoever was at the door. It was old and a little off, but you typically had to put a little force into opening the door, even if it's unlocked. My mother then had gotten up, also hearing the door, and thought my dad was home as I did. However, upon calling out for my dad to confirm and turning on the light switch, whoever it was at the door froze and noticeably jumped. He had still been walking closer to the door to open it to help him, when then she realized the man in the doorway was as tall as my dad, but had a full head of hair, as well as his outline not matching the familiar outline of my dad coming home in scrubs. This man was wider than my dad, and once he could see my mom in the doorway, he started not only turning the knob, but throwing himself against the frosted glass. I don't know what kept me from rolling over and going back to bed, but in the next few seconds, I heard my mom scream and sat up in time to hear her footsteps and see her as she disappeared into her bedroom to come back out with the revolver my dad had bought for her birthday. At this point, I had rolled over and checked my cell phone quickly to see it was 1:30 in the morning, and then I dialed 911 while my mom was pointing the gun at whoever was at the door, trying to force the way inside.
Stop or I'll shoot you! I am on the phone with the police and they are on their way. I will use force if you enter my home.
My mom screamed at the huge man at the door who, after hearing her the second and third time, finally stepped back from the door and was just staring at our shapes from the other side of the frosted glass. After a moment's thought, he seemed to like his chances because he would step forward again and only ran once my mom pulled the pin back and repeated what she had been saying, adding what she might decide, not even to wait for him to be inside. He ran off as I mentioned, and I stayed on the phone with 911 as my mom stood at the doorway, her gun still in both of her hands, aimed at the door, the way my dad had taught her to hold it just the weekend before when we all gone to the range. It was only a moment after the man had fled that 2 uniformed officers filled the doorway the man had just been in, and when they knocked, I realized how terrified my mother was. Her voice shook as she told the officers that she had a weapon, but that she wanted to hear their badge numbers before she would open the door so I could confirm with the dispatcher. Once they did, she unopened the revolver and unloaded it, putting on the table and crying as I opened the door for the police. They took our statements, had several patrol cars out looking, and found him a few hours later 6 blocks from our home. However, he'd made it into the residence he was trying to break into. What happened after that I have no idea. But to the home invader who tried to hurt me and my family, let's not meet.